This story, titled Red Burn from the ABIs, is similar to the beginning of the world after the fall. Suddenly a tower appears and monsters attack. The main character, MC, is instead pulled into a mysterious place called Abyss by an old man. To return to Earth, he must continue to enter Abyss. The story continues with Sora, a confused young man returning to Sky Iceland, an island floating in the sky, full of smoke, and destroyed Western-style buildings. He sees a mysterious figure and the old man calls out to him, saying he will be waiting in the depths of Abyss. Sora woke up from the dream, feeling mentally exhausted. He was called by his father to get ready, but kept thinking about his dream and the mysterious man. At home, his father, who had just taken a shower, stroked his head. Sora protests because he's 15 years old and doesn't like his father treating him like a child. His father teases, asking about Sora's interest in his muscles. Sora is disgusted and wishes they lived in a bigger house so he wouldn't have to see his father naked every day. His father promises to buy a big house if he's successful. Sora is tired of his father's promises that have been repeated for 5 years. His father says dreams are interesting things, and that their lives are indeed easier after Riku, Sora's older brother, joined the military. Sora plans to join the military after graduating from school, saying goodbye to his crowded life, his unreliable father, and his strict but loving mother. Sora knew the peace would end someday, but didn't expect it to be related to the appearance of a giant tower in the sky. Sora realized the tower was connected to his dream and the family's worries. That night, Riku contacted the family, saying he was fine but on duty. That was the last night they had contact with Riku. The news broadcast was chaotic, saying there were no serious problems as long as people stayed home. Then, the news mentioned 20 towers appeared around the world, then the broadcast stopped. Information was only repeated on the radio. An evacuation order is issued. Sora's family went to the shelter. Along the way, they saw soldiers with desperate expressions, their vehicles scratched and stinking. Sora's father wondered what was happening in the world. They arrived at the shelter's gymnasium, full of refugees who seemed to be waiting for death. To cut a long story short, the little family finally arrived at the gymnasium that served as a temporary shelter. The place was crowded with refugees, but the atmosphere was quiet and dark, as if there was no social life among them. All seemed resigned to waiting for death. In the midst of the silence, there was a sudden commotion from a man. He snatched a child's bread and accused the child of stealing it, even though the child had not eaten any. The child defended himself and showed proof that the man had actually eaten the bread, as the crumbs were still on his shirt. However, the man got angry and kicked the child. Sora, who witnessed the incident, was astonished that not a single person stood up for the little boy. The child could only cry because he was helplessly bullied by the ignorant man. Sora's father, who was there, did not remain silent. He reprimanded the man and questioned his reason for doing so in the midst of this difficult situation. The man, instead of apologizing, got angry and told Sora's father not to interfere. The tension peaked when the man attacked Sora's father, but Sora's father swiftly kicked him until the man fell down. Sora's father then returned the bread to the boy. Meanwhile, the man could only stare angrily and hold a grudge, stating that he would remember this incident. The man's name was Eiji Kagawa, a troublemaker known for bullying and enjoying violence. Sora was afraid, because even if the man died, he was sure he would never forget him. As the situation began to calm down, the refugees were startled by an announcement from a soldier. They were ordered to leave the building immediately through the back door and board the prepared transport trucks. A well-dressed man questioned the reason for the evacuation, but the soldier simply replied that it was confidential and apologized. The man was upset and questioned the function of taxes if citizens were not given any explanation. While the debate was going on, there was a sudden horrifying sound. The soldier immediately ordered everyone to run because they had arrived. A refugee had a bad feeling and asked his parents to hurry up. From a distance, the main door could be seen being guarded by soldiers trying to hold something back. However, the door was eventually broken down by a group of strange creatures who stormed in brutally. Monsters had attacked humans. Sora witnessed everything clearly and wondered why the world had suddenly changed like this. As the situation began to calm down, the refugees were startled by an announcement from a soldier. They were ordered to leave the building immediately through the back door and board the prepared transport trucks. A well-dressed man questioned the reason for the evacuation, but the soldier simply replied that it was confidential and apologized. The man was upset and questioned the function of taxes if citizens were not given any explanation. While the debate was going on, there was a sudden horrifying sound. The soldier immediately ordered everyone to run because they had arrived. A refugee had a bad feeling and asked his parents to hurry up. From a distance, the main door could be seen being guarded by soldiers trying to hold something back. However, the door was eventually broken down by a group of strange creatures who stormed in brutally. Monsters had attacked humans. Sora witnessed everything clearly and wondered why the world had suddenly changed like this. Sora immediately rushed to find another truck after being separated from his parents. After passing several trucks that were already full, she finally found one last truck that looked like it could still be boarded. She tried to catch up with the truck, which had just started moving. While struggling to get on, someone suddenly reached out to him. Without thinking, Sora immediately grabbed it and said thank you. However, the person's evil smile revealed his true intentions. It was Eiji Kagawa, the bastard who had thrown him off the truck earlier. Coldly, Eiji released Sora's grip and said, "Why don't you just die with your father?" Sora fell to the ground, filled with resentment towards his fate. Of all the people she could meet, why did it have to be Eiji who appeared? She felt that her life was over. However, even though death was in sight, Sora couldn't accept that fact. She hoped that someone would come to her rescue. And, as if to answer his hope, a voice suddenly called his name. When Sora looked in the direction of the voice, he was very surprised. It was the mysterious man who had appeared in his dreams. The man simply said, "I'll wait for you at the edge of Abyss," before disappearing into thin air. Sora woke up and wondered if it was just a dream. However, before he could think any further, a stone axe came hurtling towards him. Fortunately, the axe missed. Realizing the presence of monsters nearby, Sora began to panic. He wondered why he was the only one in that place, and if he was actually dead. When he turned around, the monster was still chasing him. Annoyed by all the events that didn't make sense, the appearance of the giant tower, the evil man who knocked him down, the mysterious man, and now the monster, Sora vented his anger. With a stone, he finally managed to kill the monster.
Sora sat down limply, surprised to be alive. As he watched the monster, he realized it looked like a video game creature, and there was black writing on its chest that looked like a rank marker. Suddenly, a black rock flew from the monster's body, and slammed straight into his body. In the confusion, Sora felt his wounds begin to heal and his body become stronger. He began to think, could he level up by killing monsters like in the game? Being realistic, Sora concluded that there were most likely more monsters on the mysterious island. He started exploring to avoid being ambushed, but after wandering around, he was surprised to find no other monsters or a way out. At the edge of the island, he found a ladder floating in mid-air, a sight that clearly made no sense. Realizing that there was no other option, he began to descend the ladder. In his mind, such places in games were usually the main areas of monsters. But unlike games, in this world if he died, it was truly the end of his life.
After a careful journey, Sora finally reached the end of the stairs and entered a mysterious room. There, a torch lit itself, illuminating a stone tablet with an inscription in a foreign language. Despite not recognizing the letters, his mind was mysteriously able to translate them. It read that whoever managed to collect all the fragments would earn the right to leave Abyss. By understanding the contents of the tablet, Sora now had a purpose. He felt his spirits rise again. If the monster he faced earlier can be defeated, then it's not impossible for him to collect all the fragments and get out of this place. Sora was increasingly confident that he would survive and make it out of Abyss. With that spirit, he opened the stone gate in front of him. Beyond the gate lay a vast space that marked the beginning of the journey to the next layers of Abyss. The first layer of Abyss measured 900 square meters, and the monster he defeated back then had the number 1 engraved on its body. When he reached the second layer, which was twice the size 800 square meters, he faced a monster with the number 2 carved into it. The third layer was even larger, 3,600 square meters, and of the 4 monsters there, one had the number 3. From there, Sora realized that the key fragments were only found on monsters with numbers on their bodies. These fragments are the main requirement to open the gate to the next layer. The higher the number on the monster, the stronger the opponent that must be faced. In addition, the difficulty increases as the area doubles in size, and the number of monsters doubles in each layer. But over time, Sora became stronger and stronger. As he descends layer by layer, the types and strengths of the monsters he faces continue to grow. On the 12th floor, for example, he was immediately attacked by ferocious monsters that invaded even the safe zone. But such monsters are no longer a match for Sora. The deeper he descends, the more brutal the battle becomes. By the time he reached the 30th floor, the number of monsters had reached more than 500 million. Finding a key among them was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Some key-bearing monsters are even protected by their herds, while others hide in small caves. What's most frustrating is not just their strength, but the time it takes to eliminate them all. Even so, Sora never stopped. He forged ahead and slaughtered every monster that came his way. On the 42nd floor, the number of monsters recorded reached an astonishing number, 199, 23, 255, 55, 52. Looking at the giant herd in front of him, Sora laughed like crazy. To him, this was true pleasure. He no longer cared about time. In Abyss, there were only 2 things, death and slaughter, death for the monsters and his own slaughter. Now, with a single light movement, he could eliminate dozens of monsters at once. After a long battle, Sora counted the number of monsters he had killed using a stone tablet, but before he could find the key, the tablet was suddenly destroyed by a giant centipede monster. Instead of being scared, Sora smiled with satisfaction. He wondered if the monster had the key he was looking for. Even though the monster appeared impressively, its power still meant nothing to Sora. In one strike, the monster was instantly killed. Unfortunately, after the fight ended and additional power entered his body, Sora felt empty. The monster was just another monster. He started to get annoyed because all of this felt like a waste. He had spent so much time inside Abyss, and now even power had lost its meaning to him.